Hello. You have probably had the same problem I have with a broken M3 or M4 button on your Razer controller. Mine broke right here at the neck because it was too thin. It was over a year old, so Razer said, "Sorry, can't help you." I decided to make a new one. So I designed the M3 and the M4 button and made the neck twice as thick as the original. So this is how you fix it. These are the things that you're going to need. And here's the teardown. Start with the corner here. Get up underneath the edge. Pry it and then twist as you go. You could use a little plastic tool like this or a flathead screwdriver. Or any kind of little plastic wedge will work. Just work your way around the edges until you get all the way around. And once you've broken all the little clips, you'll hear them snapping. Once you've broken them all, it'll pop right off. Next, going to work on the middle piece and the edges. For the middle piece, same thing. Get up underneath there, twist it off. It'll pop right off. Now work on the grips. Get the edge here. There's a clip about 1 centimeter in off of the first edge there. Once you get that first clip, by getting in there, you can pop the rest of it off pretty easily. So right there, I got the first clip, pull the rest of it off. Good. Do the same thing to the other side. Get in there, the first little clip. Once you get the first clip, the rest of it pops off pretty easily. Just pull it off. Alright, so now there's going to be 4 screws on both sides. Got to work out. And there's 2 screws across the X in the top. Let's put on a small bit and get the screws out on the right hand side here first. I had to swap out my screwdriver because the neck wasn't long enough on my other one. So here's the 3rd screw. And the 4th screw is hidden up underneath the fiber optic cable. Feel free to pull that out right there. It just rests up underneath the clip there. Alright, 4 screws on the right, 2 screws, well, let's do the left ones here first. So 4 screws on the left. 2. 3rd one, below the D-pad. And the 4th one up underneath the fiber optic cable on the left side there. Okay, the last 2 across the X button. 2 screws. Alright, now we're ready to take the back off. So I've already taken it off once or twice, and so the front's already pretty loose, so I can just pull it off. But as you go around, there's clips on the edges here, and especially back here in the back, it's pretty tight. So see if you can get a wedge in there. Alright, get the wedge in there. You can use a separate one if you need to. And break it around the headphone jack. And once it's released, it should come right off. Alright, so in this scenario, you can see that I've already swapped out my M3 button. I'll show you how to do the M4 button here in a second, but I wanted to show you my M3 button before I swapped it out. So you can see it broke here at the neck, and I used a drill bit to drill into these little heat posts. So it's heat pressed on there, and you have to break off each of the 3 heat posts to get it off. And I'll show you more of that here as I demonstrate the M4 button. But you'll see as soon as you break through all 3 of them, don't drill hard, just until it breaks through. You can put a wedge in here and wedge off the button off of the plastic post here. So you get it in there, and you'll be able to pop it right off. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the M4 button now. So of note, this M4 button is okay. I'm just taking it off to show that you can swap it off. So in order to take it off, you need to drill into these little heat pressed posts that hold the button down. So my kit includes this little 1.2 millimeter bit, and I'm just using a hand drill. But you could do this by hand. You could just spin a little bit or use a drill. And so just work into all 3 of them. Try to center as best you can across the little posts. And then once you get in there, you're going to actually feel it kind of release on the inside once you've gotten all the way through. So don't press too hard. Just keep spinning until you feel it release. Keep spinning. So working the second one here. Keep going until it breaks through. And working the third one now. So by drilling through this, we're releasing the pressure that's holding the plastic tab down onto the plastic base. So again, once you get through there, you'll feel it kind of break through. Had to tighten the bit a little bit. All right, that first one felt good. Working the second one. All right, feels like it went through. Right there. And I think that's it. All right, so the next thing we need to do is wedge off the button. So there's a crease right here, and you can see it. The crease is right where the button is mounted to the little plastic post underneath. So wedge right in there with a knife or a flat head screwdriver, and you can kind of wedge it in there, pry it a little bit, and it'll just pop off here in a second. There it goes. And come right off. Just twist it off there. There it goes. So this button again is actually okay. This is just for demonstration purposes, and I wanted to swap out for the stronger one anyway. So there's your M4 button. The 3D printed one's on the left and the original's on the right. You can see how much thicker the one that I created is. Alright, so now to mount it, I played around with this a lot. I made some pre-drilled holes into my button. Depending on where you drilled, it may or may not line up with the actual button underneath or the hole that you drilled there. If it does, perfect. So I'm going to call that option number 1 here in a second. But before that, you got to take off these little heads first. You can use a knife or a razor blade. They pop right off. So make it nice and flat. Free up those holes. Okay, so to mount this thing, we only need to mount in one of the holes. One screw's strong enough. So you can try the left one, try the right one. So this is option number 1. So try the left hole. In this case, I'm trying the right hand hole. just to see if it lines up. And in my scenario, it did. So again, it all depends on how centered you were when you drilled out the 3 heat pressed holes. So in this case, it lines up really nicely. You can see that line across the top there, and a little tab fit in there nicely. And again, you only need 1 screw. So if yours happens to line up, and you'll know it's lined up because you can see it, but also when you put the back on, you know, if the button presses freely and nicely, then you're good to go. If it's bound at all, that means you might not have a good alignment. So test the buttons there, and as long as you can press them good, well, it works. All right, so here's the fail safe. So if for some reason you could not align either of the other 2 holes that you've already pre-drilled, you can create a 3rd hole. So this is the backup. This will work no matter what. So there's a 3rd hole in the middle of the button right there. So you're just going to use that guide. You're going to hold it in place and drill out that 3rd hole. So again, you don't even need to do this if the previous step worked, but if for whatever reason it was misaligned, we're going to go ahead and create this 3rd hole here. And this is guaranteed to work because it's a new hole and you aligned it exactly where it needed to be. All right, so pop through. I'm going to grab a screw, put it into that 3rd hole there. I find it easier if you just by hand start the screw and then mount it. So again, line it up, get the little tab into the base and tighten it down. You don't tighten it crazy, just snug is all you need to do, and 1 screw does it. Hold it in place, you can feel it snapping, and you'll see that it's acting appropriately. So there it is, both of them replaced, M3 and M4. And again, good line across the top, nice and flush, good to go. So the next step, put the back on. This is kind of where we test it. So put the back on, start from the bottom up. If it's in there, you'll feel it snap right across the top there, snap around the edges, and you can snap it right there, you know, with the jack. Okay, once that's on, this is important. Test the buttons, make sure they're not bound. This is where you would find out if your holes were misaligned and whether or not you needed to drill that third hole. But if all 4 are moving well there, then you're good to go. It's just a matter of putting it back together. So we're gonna do the 4 screws on the right and 4 screws on the left, and then 2 screws up top. Okay, so we're going to work on the right hand side first. Work that bottom screw, work the screw underneath the analog stick, the one on the right hand side, and the last one on the right is going to be the one that goes underneath the fiber optic cable. Okay, let's work the ones on the left now, under the D-pad. Down at the bottom, on the left, and the last one on the left is going to be up here underneath where the fiber optic line goes. Okay, still have 2 more across the top, across the X button. 1 and the last one. Number 2. Okay. Again, double check your buttons. Good to go. If you feel them clicking, just fine. And go ahead and put in your cables. If they weren't clicking, you need to go back in there and just double check that your holes are aligned. But it should work fine. So put your fiber optic cables back in, just tuck them in there, push the grips down, straight down. If you just kind of hover over the fiber optic cables and push straight down, they snap in nicely. Make sure you snap all the way around. Put the piece that covers the Xbox button back on, it snaps on easily. And put the plate back on, snaps on easily. Check all your buttons and good to go. Alright, so there it is. Full reassembly and 2 brand new buttons. Last thing we need to do is test it. So I plugged it in and let's go ahead and do it. So right button works and the left button also works. Reload. Alright, well, success. I appreciate y'all watching. Hopefully this was helpful. And I'm going to sell the kits, the M3 and or the M4 button, link below for those interested. And hopefully you can fix your $150 controller instead of junking it. Take care.